Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of the Pakistan Experience. And we have Dr. Nida Kirmani here with us. Hi, Nida. How are you doing?
I'm very well. How are you, Shazad?
Good, good. I think as good as one can be in during this coronavirus. And especially
Hmm.
after yesterday, everybody's distraught. So I'm not sure how I feel. Still processing.
I think it's very uncertain times. क्या कर सकते हैं?
Yeah, for some reason you feel like this national tragedy is hitting even harder.
Yeah, I think also because people were already so upset, or फिर on top of that, और इतना बड़ा अगर हादसा हो जाता है, तो it's like, already हम सब on edge हैं.
Mm.
So you're just, anything can push you over at any time. So I think a lot of people are, but of course, like the scale is also huge. 100, almost 100 people is a lot of lives to lose just like that in the blink of an eye. फिर दूसरा ये कि everyone's thinking about the fact that they were going home probably to be with their family. So yeah, I mean it's very very sad. And I know कि हमें कल actually ये conversation करनी थी, and both of us were too shaken up. And I think it's everyone was shaken up after hearing this. It's very very sad.
Yeah, and also that I don't think as a nation we're really taught how to deal with grief. We have a weird relationship with grief. I think
Mm-hmm.
either वो anger में निकल आता है या violence में निकल आता है. Processing emotions is not something we're great at to begin with. And जिस तरह
No, we're
television.
like a giant man who's taught not to deal with their emotions, but just like as a nation.
so मेरे जैसा ही है ना पाकिस्तान भी. But वही है कि टीवी पे भी आप देखें तो it's all just blame game या it's already I think लोग पायलट पे blame डाल रहे हैं या it's just traumatic images that cause PTSD. I don't think किसी चैनल ने किसी grief counselor को बुलाया पूछने के लिए कि यार if we're all grieving how to deal with it.
बिल्कुल भी नहीं.
And
It's
आज
just who can have the most sensational story first. That seems to be the trend.
yeah
और फिर सोशल मीडिया पे भी अजीब अजीब से मतलब ट्वीट्स आप देख रहे हैं, मतलब अच्छे अच्छे लोग कितनी अजीब अजीब सी बातें कर रहे हैं, and you're like क्या हो जाता है लोगों को. I mean, I guess it's also like you don't know, like people react in all sorts of funny ways as well. Like you said, people don't know how to deal with emotions, and sometimes it comes out in very inappropriate ways. And we try to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, but there's some very distasteful things that have been said since yesterday.
I think a couple which are probably close to us or in our circles, like Salman Haider ने काफी distasteful tweet किया था where he was trying to correlate it to Balochistan कि nothing really happens when people die in Balochistan. So, but I mean,
Yeah, actually, like this is a trend. I think a part of a wider trend कि जब भी जैसे वेस्ट में अगर कोई हादसा होता है इस तरह से, जैसे नोट्रडाम का जो फायर जो लगी थी, उसके बाद भी आई एम श्योर मैंने भी उस तरह का कुछ कहा होगा. हो सकता है कि यहाँ जब ऐसी कोई चीज होती है तो आप लोग कब न्यूज में ये खबर चलाते हैं. So it's kind of like a common reaction I think people have, but I think we really need to think carefully about what kind of impact this has, if it's actually doing any service to the cause of people in Balochistan. मुझे तो लगता है ये actually उनके लिए negative असर होगा. इस तरह से अगर आप frame करें तो लोगों का knee jerk response भी ये होगा कि like we don't care about them, and that's just, I mean, this is just like a cycle of anger and bitterness that won't end. It's a race to the bottom. तो इस तरह से तो हम react कर सकते हैं.
I think timing is also the key, right? So, for instance, there is a conversation to be had कि America का response 9/11 के बाद क्या था and how many deaths it has caused. I think you can have that conversation right now. But if when 9/11 happened and you were celebrating, that's not the time to do it. Yeah. Even again, think about the worst thing that has probably happened in Pakistan. Yeah, in terms of our national psyche, the worst tragedy that we have in recent memory, it's probably APS. तो APS भी जिन्होंने कंडक्ट किया था वो नहीं, बट जिनके जो मास्टरमाइंड थे, दे सेड नाउ यू नो हाउ वी फील, नाउ यू नो कि जी हमारे जब आप ड्रोन हमलों में या बॉम्बिंग करके हमारे बच्चों के स्कूल फाड़ते हैं, हाउ वी फील. यू कैन क्रिटिसाइज द वायलेंट बिहेवियर एंड unacceptable. कोई apologist हो ही नहीं सकता of the terrorists who did what happened at APS. But you can then also have a conversation around के yes, जब आप bombing कर रहे होते हैं और पूरे पूरे villages हट जाते हैं, that's also wrong. But the time to have that conversation is maybe not immediately after a tragedy.
हाँ, और फिर एक तरीका भी होता है वो बात करने का ना, like it's not you don't say your loss doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You have to kind of say your loss matters. Now imagine what other folks who we rarely think about what they go through. I mean, उस तरह से अगर आप frame करें तो शायद लोगों की समझ में भी आ जाए. लेकिन इस तरह से अगर आप dismiss कर लें तो nobody's gonna ever understand each other's pain. And I think this is one of our biggest issues here कि इतना gap है लोगों के दरमियान. Class gap भी है, ethnic gap भी है, और ये gap deliberately रखा जाता है. मतलब those who are in power also benefit from this as well. So I think for us, we have to really resist this. But जब हमारे जैसे सलमान हैदर को तो I respect him a lot. So I try to engage also respectfully with him and understand कि ठीक है, मैं disagree करती हूँ. उन्होंने जो कहा था, it's not the right, it's probably never the right time actually to say that. But trying to understand कि उनका गुस्सा कहाँ से आ रहा है. I think that for us, like for social scientists or people who are a little bit more critical and who have the privilege of being able to step back, I think that's our job, is to kind of think like ये जो शख्स है ये कहाँ से आ रहा है? Why would this person be reacting like this? So Salman Haider, so of course he was like disappeared and he was kept for several months and tortured. And so उनके अंदर जो bitterness है, I think I could never understand that. Now I can still say कि आपने जो बात कही है वो गलत है, but at least I can try to understand कि क्यों इस तरह की बात करेगा कोई, and so I think that's what our job is, to kind of like figure out why do people react in this way.
लेकिन I think जब Twitter पे lynch mobs बन जाते हैं, आप किसी को इतनी भी space नहीं दे सकते. So Cyril also said something really, really distasteful, right? So Cyril,
yeah, I saw that.
And he said कि PIA great people to fly with except those who we kill. So I replied saying, yeah, maybe in a year this is funny. In a month, this is distasteful. In a week is too soon. Right now, this is unconscientious for you to say. You're better than this. Delete this. ये मेरा tweet था. And because Cyril के खिलाफ एक lynch mob बना हुआ था, I also got dragged into that. They were like,
yeah. So I think it's also hard. Like जैसे सलमान हैदर की tweet को जब मैंने respond किया था, I also realized कि एक lynch mob बना हुआ है, और ज़रार खुरो ने भी उनको retweet किया, and he was very, very harsh and said, I hope you. पता नहीं, बहुत उन्होंने भी गलत बात की. मतलब two wrongs don't make a right ना. सलमान हैदर ने भी गलत बात की. उन्होंने फिर कहा कि I hope you die alone or something. Like that is not the way to respond, ना? Like, but I think for us it's hard to intervene, and other people also use you and join the lynch mob. Huh?
Towards Zarar is the same empathy that we might extend towards Salman Haider. Because Salman Haider got picked up, probably got tortured, which is why he's hateful. With on the other side, if Zarar is grieving, or if I am grieving, or the nation is grieving, and you say something, if you respond with anger as well,
a friend, so of course it's like you can understand what क्यों होता.
वो उस time I think एक calculated, nuanced approach करना Twitter पे मुश्किल है. So अभी right now I'm also being heavily criticized for saying that के do you think in a year this will be funny? And I'm like, no, I'm not saying that. But jokes about PIA are a commonplace in our culture, right? Ali Azmat has a little song called Bum Pata. Bomb blasts ke jokes, and I think we can maybe tie this into your research in Lyari, are part of the coping mechanism. I think Karachi में आप अगर सड़क पे जाएंगे, बोरी बंद लाशें, it's a common vernacular कि जी बोरी में बंद हो जाएगा. That doesn't mean you're mocking everybody who died in a bori. It's a way for you to cope with the fear that you live with. And in terms of mocking national tragedies, you can make fun of the perpetrators of the crime, right? So if you talk about APS, I think it's quite powerful in Pakistan if you mock the terrorists. If you ever mock the victims or the children, that will always remain distasteful. But if it is found that PIA is guilty and they are culpable in the crime, I don't see an issue with mocking PIA a year from now. Right now,
and I think, like you said, this is like a tradition of Black comedy, so definitely is part of our culture, part of this region. Yeah, it's a fine line between mocking PIA and mocking the perpetrators or those who are powerful and mocking those who are the victims. And I think that's what sometimes gets lost. And then social media में भी ये nuance बहुत
तो वो
कम हो जाता है या
we don't
खत्म हो
even give
जाता
people that
है
space.
maybe.
Okay, maybe that is what they meant. I think जब हम बात कर रहे हैं dealing with grief, self awareness भी तो नहीं है. जिस तरह हमने सलमान की बात की, Cyril similarly suffered a lot personally, professionally. So a lot of their opinions might be dictated by the grief and the anger that they feel. Similarly, हमारा जो पूरा मुल्क है, we're dealing with grief. It is a really sad time. It's a national tragedy that happened. But वो grief hate बन के निकल रही है, and I don't think people are self-aware of themselves even कि ये मैं इस वक्त जो moral police कर रहा हूँ या virtue signal कर रहा हूँ, I'm not standing up for something that's right. I just want a target for my anger. अब वो कोई भी मिल जाए, वो सिरिल हो या वो सलमान हो, वो लिंच मॉब बन जाता है ट्विटर पर.
बिल्कुल. और कल तो I mean a lot of people just started blaming right away और PPP को लोग गालियां दे रहे हैं और PIA को और पायलट को और इनको उनको and it's just like slow down. Like let's figure out what happened first and we probably will never know what happened sadly. But थोड़ा सा आप वक्त तो दे दें लोगों को to process, to grieve, to the families. लेकिन अब क्या कर सकते हैं? And then social media is also like the nature of social media is that बस मुझे कुछ बहुत ही hot take मेरा होना चाहिए, कुछ ऐसी sensational चीज मुझे खुद कहनी चाहिए ताकि मुझे भी likes आ जाएं, मेरे भी followers हो जाएं, you know. So I think it's just like this vicious kind of cycle.
So a lot of people asked me when I told them that you're going to be the guest, कि आप क्यों हैं ट्विटर पे? Because this seems to happen to you a lot. There are a lot of times that there are vicious mobs against you and you're targeted often about a lot of things. So why do you आप sadist हैं? आप क्यों अपने आप को इतना suffer करते हैं?
Actually, that's the answer.
मजा आता है ये सब करने में.
Big old sadist. You got me. I don't know. I just like ये Twitter वाला तो गलती से हो गया. I think I only became active about 2 years ago. उससे पहले मेरा account बना हुआ था. Maybe I don't know. I'd have to go and see के कब 5-6 साल हो गए. और मेरी बहुत अच्छी दोस्त है. She lives in London. She's like ran for MP in the last election. She's wonderful and she's very active on Twitter. Faiza Shaheen. So she said to me, like, Nida, why aren't you on Twitter? You're not part of the conversation. And I was like, hey, like which conversation, you know? And I was doing my usual academic conversations, face to face hoti kya social media. The Facebook pe main hamesha se bahut dinon se active thi. But that's also morphed from being just personal, funny, family, friends to becoming more political. But Twitter, I think it was like really 2 years ago, जब PTM का movement शुरू हुआ, and I realized कि मुझे news mainstream media से नहीं मिलने वाली है, और वो लोग भी Twitter को बहुत ज़्यादा इस्तेमाल कर रहे थे. So I just started following, and then I started tweeting and supporting, and it just kind of drew me in. And I probably it's kind of an addiction as well. But I also realized that it's one important space where we can have some kind of dialogue and discussion. And yes, it's toxic. Yes, it's really problematic. Yes, some people have a lot more power and control in Twitter. It's not a free space. But still, there's a little bit more scope for slightly more democratic kind of conversation. जिसमें मतलब नॉर्थ वजीरिस्तान से भी लोग पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं, बलूचिस्तान से भी लोग शामिल हो रहे हैं, वो अपने इश्यूज उठा रहे हैं और उनको मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया में जगह नहीं मिलती है. So I also realized here, like if I want to know a little bit more than what the mainstream media is allowed to tell me, then I'm going to have to get into this space. And then you also realize that you can also at least add your voice to the discussion and put forward a different kind of perspective. So that's also, really important. So I think that's why I'm on it.
So there's some obvious hardline tactics कि जी बैन है, आप आ ही नहीं सकते, PTM का जिक्र ही नहीं हो सकता, journalists हैं, TV हैं. But then there are also soft tactics, right, which take a toll on you. Like for instance, ever since I've started having progressive voices, I've noticed कि मेरी Twitter trolling or campaigns against me have multiplied. And ironically, even people within our own circles, या जो liberals हैं so called या leftists हैं, I think they're also vying for blood. At least देख तो लो कौन tweet कर रहा है. The worst kind of people who are out there tweeting the most vicious campaigns against PTM or other people. अगर वो woke terminology use कर they try to drag you or me or Amar एटलीस्ट एक सेकंड देख तो लो कि बात क्या है. So we don't even give each other that.
कौन बात कर रहा है, मतलब ये भी हम नहीं देखते हैं कि ठीक है, मतलब a tweet is only this long.
Yeah.
So you're probably not understanding the whole context that this person is coming from. So give them the benefit of the doubt, you know, and जिस तरह से आप कह रहे हैं, like even जो हमारे allies हैं, हम लोग आपस में ये नहीं करते हैं. We don't give each other that space. कि ठीक है, हो सकता है मैंने भी बहुत सारी गलत बातें की होंगी ट्विटर पे. I know I have. But at least I would expect my allies, people who know me or follow me, to give me the benefit of the doubt, or at least engage in a respectful dialogue, not just go for the, you know, go for blood right away. But
it's the same thing that you said, right? You feel better, you get addicted to likes and shares. Yeah, by bringing Nida down, if it makes me bigger, mere 100 followers, and dekho Nida ne mujhe like, even if you block somebody, it's an achievement for them. They'll put a screenshot. Oh look, Shazad blocked me, Nida blocked. Well,
freedom of speech की curtail हो रही है.
नहीं हो रही. आप की मेंटल हेल्थ तबाह करने पे तुले हुए हैं. तो what I was saying was कि एक तो हार्ड लाइन टैक्टिक्स होती है ना कि जी बैन कर दिया, फिर एक सॉफ्ट टैक्टिक्स होती है which are these campaigns जो सबको पता है कि टारगेटेड हैं, कौन से अकाउंट्स हैं, उनको कहाँ से पैसे आ रहे हैं, and that eventually makes you reconsider or makes you want to be like, यार मेरी mental health भी important है. I can't pour from an empty cup. So like for instance, if you're doing academic work, you're teaching, and 6 lanes of your mental highway are occupied by hateful messages on Twitter, you're operating on the lanes that are left.
That's right.
So that also eventually takes a toll on your mental health. So what do you do? How do you disconnect? How do you deal with that?
You know, like it's very few times that it gets to me, to be honest. लोग अक्सर मुझसे पूछते हैं कि how do you deal, ये सारा कुछ. You know, I just put something out there and then I usually don't read the responses. And I know the other day somebody was saying, okay, you know, these people, who do they think they are, respond bhi nahi karte ye wo. And I wrote back to that person. I happened to catch it. And I said, like, dude, like, we have jobs. We have lives. We have jobs. We have families. And sometimes we want to just vegetate. Like, we're human beings with lives and full lives. And we should not be expected to be online all the time. So this pressure to always respond, I think but I have to fight it too, because I'm a little bit OCD about it. अगर कोई मुझे message करता है, कोई DM करता है, कोई random शख्स जिसको मैं नहीं जानती हूँ, I have a really hard, I mean, I respond. And it's hard because it takes a lot of time and energy. The thing that I've learned over time is जो trolls हैं, और जो ये बड़े-बड़े, पिछले हफ्तों में तो बड़े-बड़े trolls ने मुझे target किया है ना, Cynthia Ritchie, as you saw, Mirna,
founded a bank in Wall Street.
I also just found it kind of funny. So I think you just have to kind of laugh, because these are people you just can't take seriously, you know, like, who are they? Where are they coming from? They are ridiculous human beings. So हम अपनी energy उन पे कैसे ज़ाया करेंगे? Like, it's crazy if we do that. So with those few, like, really targeted ones, I just tried to make jokes out of it. I realized that in your, you know, you're much funnier than I am. But I think humor is a great way of dealing with a lot of the stuff. Just first, like for myself, I laugh it off. And then with them as well, you just kind of make a sarcastic comment or something light, or, you know, just don't give in. And I think वो लोग भी वो disarm हो जाते हैं ना, confused हो जाते हैं कि क्यों गुस्सा नहीं कर रही, like, why I'm supposed to get a rise out of her. And they're trying to wear you down, right? Like, that's their whole point. They're trying to exhaust you and do exactly that, and make me say कि बस यार कोई फायदा नहीं है, बहुत हो गया, I'm just going to go back to my work and shut up. And I just think the best thing is to, like, make light of it. And if it's really getting to you, then yes, you should disconnect. And it's fine. Like, दुनिया तो नहीं खत्म होने वाली है if you don't tweet for a few days or a few weeks or whatever. मैंने इस तरह से अभी तक disconnect नहीं किया, मुझे ज़रूरत नहीं महसूस हुई. Last week when things got really bad, I joked it off. I waited a little while because I actually was quite enjoying seeing people having a go at both of them. And then I blocked them. And I've started blocking really liberally. Because पहले तो I think I used to think कि यार इनको ठीक है, हो सकता है सीख लें, हो सकता है उनके साथ कोई dialogue हो सकता है. And I realized कि a lot of people, either they're paid trolls or they're just so close-minded that कोई फायदा नहीं है. So why am I wasting my energy on these people? If somebody's on my account and following me with malicious intent, then you're blocked. Like that's it. And that's actually freed me up a lot from all of this. I think that just cuts out a lot of the stress, you know?
Yeah. I think for me also, I get worn down and I disconnect and I take a couple of days off. But what you're doing is you're not speaking to them. So like if Cynthia D. Ritchie goes after you, you know she's a joke, you know Mir Mac is a joke. But unfortunately, there are thousands, if not millions of people who follow them or respect them or think they're the voice of reason.
That's right.
It's how do you speak to that audience?
Hmm.
Which brings you back.
I think we have to just be a little bit like realistic about who you're able to speak to and who you're not able to speak to. And of course, you don't want to keep just preaching to the converted or staying in your own bubble. वो तो हम नहीं करना चाहते हैं. But I also think like folks who are following Cynthia, not just to see कि तमाशा क्या हो रहा है, but actually because they think she's right, there's very little chance that social media is going to change their view. It might be कि अगर वो face to face आके बात करें, you know, तो फिर आप शायद कोई आपका असर हो सकता है या. But उस तरह से in this like very limited medium, I don't think one should harbor any false hopes about converting folks who are already so, you know, far gone and who think, I mean, who could think Mir Mac is somebody who has any kind of intelligent opinion on, and like really. तो मैं आपसे किस तरह से बात कर सकती हूँ, मुझे अफसोस होता है definitely, but I don't think there's any point in focusing your communication on those people.
Yeah, unfortunately, that some people who have amassed some Twitter following and they think Twitter is the be all and end all of everything, right? Whereas, how much nuance can you provide in a 244 characters or however limited Twitter is, right? आप अगर एक चीज की भी बात करें, तो people start throwing moral absolutism at you, right? So recently somebody tagged me, Jabran Nasir and Jami and said, ये जो feminist मर्द हैं, ये अब किसी मर्द पे जब एसिड गिरा है तो इसकी बात क्यों नहीं करते हैं? And I was like, who do you think we are? Like, do you really think we're such monsters कि जब किसी औरत किसी मर्द के मुंह पे एसिड फेंके तो विल बी लाइक नहीं ये ठीक है? या कोई दुनिया का फेमिनिज्म है जो कहते हैं नहीं, लेट्स क्रिएट अ वर्ल्ड वेयर women start throwing acid on men's faces. But it's just that, right? They need an opportunity. So even if you take a couple of days off and something happens, they'll be like, oh look, Nida is silent about this now because
कुछ नहीं बोला. अब कहाँ है liberals? अब libtards कहाँ हैं?
तो फिर वो ये भी हो जाते क्या मैं क्यों हर चीज पे बोलूं? Of course ही बात है यार. I mean, I'm not going to defend a woman just because she's a woman because she was the perpetrator in this scenario. I will also realize that 99.9% of the time it's men who are the perpetrators, but in this instance it's not, and I don't like, yeah, कैसे लोगों को समझाएं?
Yeah, you just have to try not to get wound up as well. I think that's something that takes a lot of time I mean, I'm still learning. So, but that's like a process now, and you know, I'm lucky that I don't get it just doesn't bother me, you know, it doesn't get to me. So some people have a thicker skin, some people don't, and it's nothing great about me that I have a thick skin. I probably am just in some kind of weird state of denial about the world, but if you don't, then I think it makes sense not to engage too much on that space because it's not an easy kind of place to exist in.
Absolutely. So even like just now abhi maine iski example diya, a lot of times women's issues are co-opted by the right as a way to further their own agenda, right? Just now abhi anti-lockdown ki bhi baat ho rahi thi. One of the arguments that was made was there's a rise in domestic violence, and we're not going to talk about men being the problem in that, but we're going to talk about the lockdown being a problem. कि जी domestic violence में इतना ज़्यादा rise है, unwanted pregnancies इतना ज़्यादा rise है, तो हमें lockdown खोल देना चाहिए. So do you feel like a lot of times women's issues are either misused or co-opted?
Yeah, I mean, this is like a classic strategy of the right, starting from colonialism, when the whole justification, one of the major justifications for colonialism was the white man's burden, and in the words of Gayatri Spivak, saving brown women from brown men. So that was like one of the major goals, like one of the major, not goals, but justifications, let's say. उसके बाद हमने war on terror में भी ये discourse देखा है कि US अफगानिस्तान में वो कर रहे हैं, जंग लड़ रहे हैं क्योंकि वहाँ की औरतों को उनको आज़ादी देनी है, you know, like, and in our context, or India may be like Hindutva uses Muslim women as well in the same way. Ye Muslim mard they backwards hain, we have to save their women from them. And similarly, in this case, the lockdown needs to end because men are abusing women. When of course we know that ending the lockdown will be harmful for women and men. But ये अभी recently हुआ था ना PTM के साथ भी, I don't know if you followed that, कि कुछ ऑनर किलिंग्स हुई थी वजीरिस्तान में, 2 टीनेज लड़कियों को मारा और फौरन ये ट्रोल शुरू हो गए ना कि देखो पीटीएम ने कुछ नहीं कहा, देखो इन्होंने इन लड़कियों के बारे में कुछ नहीं कहा, ये वो you know, like, so it was immediately that issue was co-opted by the right again. So we have to be really like conscious of that कि ये बहुत आम strategy है, and it's very effective as well because women become these symbolic markers that everyone wants to just use for their own purposes, and nobody actually cares about the women themselves.
So your book and a lot of your research in India as well, and then वहाँ पर भी एक शाबानो का केस हुआ था, which was similarly co-opted by both parties. कि जी Hindu men were like, ये देखो, they want a separate law system because they want to abuse their women or not want to give their rights. Whereas I don't think those, and I don't mean every single Hindu, obviously I mean organizations that believe in a Hindu supremacy wanted to bring down a religion or people of that religion. It wasn't about helping this particular woman or women in general.
Bilkul. And that's continued. I mean, that's still their strategy. BJP still does that. Abhi recently, since Shabano's case was in 1984, 1978 pe unhone file kiya tha. So that's been like 40, this is also when I was born, right? So that was like 41 years, 42 years? Yeah, 40, oh my God. So it's been a long time.
So when you said 1984, my mind was like, okay, 20, 25 years. And then I did the math. And I was like,
whoa. And recently, again, this triple talaq issue hasn't died in 42 years. Recently, again, the BJP brought it up and was saying that triple talaq ko khatam karna hai because Muslim women are suffering and they should have one law for everyone. And, you know, this is the problem because feminists have also been saying that. Even Muslim feminists have been saying that. But when the BJP co-opts that discourse, you're stuck. Because agar aap usko support karenge, to phir by default aap BJP ko support kar rahe hain. And we live in this binaristic world. Now it's you're with us or against us. Yahan bhi yahi haal hai, wahan bhi wahi haal hai. So feminists are stuck there.
Okay, so now, I mean, like, avoiding these unnuanced conversations on Twitter, there are 2 conversations which we can potentially have. One is, do you think it's part of feminism and part of the feminist movement to align itself with other movements for struggle? And one of your colleagues, and I'm not sure how respected he is, but he often throws that into the faces of a lot of feminists, that it's the intersectionality jo hai, ya ye class se thodi blind hai. So how important is, do you think, for the movement itself to align itself? Pehle isko zara discuss kar lete hain. Should it be with, should every single oppression be part of the movement, or do you think it's fine, they can have separate movements and they can all exist?
I mean, थोड़ी सी abstract ये बात है, I think, but I don't think it's possible to have a women's movement or a feminist movement and not align somehow with all of these other movements, no? Because women, if we're just talking about women, and I am the kind of feminist who thinks that it's not just about women, no? It's about everyone, actually. Yeah. Like the thing is that all of us are bound by patriarchy, men, women, transgender people, gender non-binary people, whatever. So everyone is bound by this. So and all of those people occupy multiple positions. So they would be working class, they would be people, you know, Black people, they would be people who are, you know, lesbian and gay. So, I mean, how can you then pull all of these things apart? Because nobody's just a woman. You are a woman and, or you are a man and. So there's no way of cutting this like and separating this into different kinds of struggles. We need to figure out how these struggles are intertwined. And I think that's the challenge now when people try to say, nay, it's gender is the most important thing. And then somebody else says, nay, class is the most important thing. And then somebody says, no, race is the most important thing. So this competition of the most serious oppressions, I don't think is really going to get us anywhere. And that's what I think the confusion, and I mean, no disrespect to my colleague at all. I actually think I don't understand, and I think you're talking about Temur Rahman's recently, he's tweeted a lot about intersectionality. I think I don't understand his position, to be honest. And this is the problem with Twitter, because वो शायद कोई बात करना चाह रहे हैं और मेरी समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. तो I think कभी वो जब मैं लम्स वापस जाऊंगी तो हम बैठ के face to face बात कर सकते हैं इसके बारे में.
I think also the repeated attacks, right? He's going after feminists, saying that.
But then वो खुद भी I think अपने आप को feminist ही कहते हैं. I think so. I don't know. I'm not sure. To be honest, I don't know. It's
just, I think we might have to bring him on to have this discussion with him.
I think we should have him on and figure out what.
औरत मार्च भी हो रही थी, तब भी he was like कि नहीं. आपने हमारे
लेकिन एंड में फिर वो आ गए थे उसमें औरत मार्च में. So people change and they change their minds, and that's a good thing too.
So Aurat March in particular was very inclusive about other people's issues, right? Whether that be working class struggle, other identities. But how do you make it inclusive on both sides? Because at one point you want to be inclusive towards other struggles as well, but you also have to be inclusive in terms of identity. That if you're a woman, you have a space here. It's a safe space here, or space that might not be afforded to you in maybe other struggles or other places. But at the same time, if you're not conscious of other working class struggles, right? If you're a rich capitalist woman who exploits labor, but you're part of the feminist movement, there is a contradiction there. So you want to be inclusive of her identity as a woman, but you also want to be maybe critical of her role as a capitalist or as an industrialist. तो वो दोनों boards में कैसे इंसान रहे?
I think it's like that's been one of the tensions there in Aurat March, and I think also just generally with the women's movement, because Pakistani women's movement, mainstream women's movement has always been dominated by upper middle class, many women who've been educated abroad and urban professionals. Like, ठीक है, वो super elite नहीं है, but they are relatively privileged in the context of Pakistan. So, or Punjabi, Karachi mein Urdu speaking, you know, like, so those are the folks who dominated, and wo us waqt se that's been a critique, like classism bhi hai or ethnocentrism bhi hai, or rural औरतों की issues भी नहीं उठाए जाते हैं उस तरह
like similar to the white feminism critique that you get in the West.
हाँ, बिल्कुल. And I think we've come a long way. I think in the last 30-40 years there has been a lot of growth and development. And what frustrates me is sometimes people don't acknowledge that, and especially like younger folks, उनको पता भी नहीं होता है कि like कितनी internally discussions हुई हैं और कितनी evolution हुई है women's movement की. And Aurat March की organizing में मैं इतनी central नहीं थी, but I did participate to some extent, and I know that they struggled a lot to try to make it as inclusive as I know they did. So I think when people from outside come in, jump in and make a critique without the knowledge of the efforts that have been made, फिर मुझे गुस्सा आता है, because it's like, yeah, you know, it's, of course it's not perfect, of course it's not, nothing can be 100% inclusive, नहीं हो सकता है, कैसे हो सकता है? But the point is, have they tried? And I think they have tried a lot. So yeah, you know, which isn't to say they can't try more or we can't try more, right? But it's very easy to stand outside and criticize. At the same time, I understand कि जो especially Balochistan में या former FATA में जो औरतें हैं, like they feel like, you know, hello, you're not talking about any of the issues that are affecting us. So who are you? Like, how can you say you're the women's movement? हम औरतें नहीं हैं. तो ये भी है एक issue, but अक्सर ये होता है कि जो मर्द होते हैं, especially men from those places who might not be, and of course a lot of men there are very sympathetic, लेकिन कुछ मर्द हैं जो नहीं हैं. And they will use this, again, this idea of like, we're going to use women as an excuse to say that feminism hi kharab hai, or the feminism ye Western conspiracy hai, ya ek elitist conspiracy hai, and this is in our movement. Yeah. And I don't think that's really fair.
I think वही है कि the modes of conversation and how you have these conversations, right? You and I talking right here, right now, कि within the movement criticality भी हो सकती है. We can have an educated discussion. But let's say if I was to tweet it out, कि यार ये औरत मार्च की downfall है, I think maybe a lot of people will be like, excuse me, what is wrong with you? Because जब already movement हो रहा होता है where everybody is throwing stones at you, उस टाइम ये nuance बातें और especially social media पे तो बहुत ही मुश्किल है. And one thing I can vouch for personally as well from my conversations with people, I think within the past 5 years, especially the feminist movement in Pakistan has been the most LGBTQ pro, which they probably weren't 5 years, 5, 6 years ago, or at least a decade ago at all. ये inclusivity भी मैंने
Because they
आंखों के
couldn't
सामने
be,
देखी है बढ़ती हुई.
couldn't be, बिल्कुल.
इस कॉन्वर्जेशन का जो दूसरा पैग है, now when you talk about other, so ठीक है, feminists should be part of the working class struggle and all these other movements. What about the other organizations, right? So for instance, we had Asim Sajjad on, we were talking about sexism within the AWP. So when we talk about PTM, of course, all their issues are valid, but it's also a very male dominated space. Maybe that's because of the culture that they're coming from. So how do you have these conversations there as well?
I mean, PTM का ये है कि I'm not, I'm an ally. तो मैं कोई insider नहीं हूँ कि मैं जाके ये बातें करूँ. And folks who I've met who are in the leadership have always been very open and everything. लेकिन I wouldn't say कि it's my job to come in and say कि आपको फिर जो sexism है आपके movement में वो भी आपको ठीक करनी चाहिए. I know कि there's a lot of women like Ismat Shahjahan, she's really committed. वो AWP में भी हैं, वो Women's Democratic Front में भी हैं और PTM में भी बहुत active हैं. So she's been working really hard. Sana Ejaz हैं, Gulalai हैं. So there are these women, Busha Gohar हैं, like there are these women who've been at the forefront actually. So first of all, like I don't think definitely sexism hai because like any male dominated movement will be sexist because it's dominated by men and our culture is sexist. But I think PTM still is relatively, for not being a women's movement and not being, it's as sexist as the left in Pakistan, this,
or the right. I mean, the right
well, the right to
right
is sexist, ना? But left से हम उम्मीद तो रखते हैं ना कि वो sexist नहीं होंगे. Or maybe PTM is less sexist than the rest of the left or the left. Because हमारे यहाँ जो left के मर्द हैं अक्सर, not all of them, अक्सर वो denial में हैं कि gender is actually an issue. So, I don't think PTM is exceptional in terms of the sexism that exists. And if anything, I think they've been trying, at least, again, like they can do a lot more to make it more inclusive for women, but I think definitely having these women in leadership positions, jalson mein bhi auratein baat karti hain shuru se. तो और फिर अभी जो ऑनर किलिंग्स जब हुई थी तो मोहसिन दावर ने, मंजूर पश्तीन ने, सब ने फिर बहुत ही स्ट्रांग पोजीशन लिया था इसके खिलाफ and they made sure कि FIRs दर्ज हुई हैं सारा कुछ. So I think that they're trying. I think much more can be done. लेकिन definitely efforts तो हो रही हैं.
I think यही दोनों मसले हैं ना कि आप एक critical conversation nuance के साथ कर नहीं सकते because then right jump on कर जाता है कि अच्छा नहीं अब तो ये honor killings के भी favor में, which obviously they're not, right? B, because these movements are seen as leftist, they need to tick all the 20 boxes and meet every single moral standard set, whereas we don't even talk about sexism in the right because वो already इतने ज़्यादा मसले हैं. ये तो फिर एक एड ऑन मसला है ना उसके साथ. I mean, ये तो कॉन्वर्सेशन किसी ने नहीं की जी सेक्सिज्म विद इन द पीटीआई.
राइट में तो हम कह रहे हैं कि देखो लोगों को गायब करना सही नहीं है. वो कह रहे नहीं नहीं ऐसे करना चाहिए, मिसिंग पर्सन होने चाहिए और ये सारे टेररिज्म. तो लाइक दैट्स द लेवल ऑफ कन्वर्सेशन. दे आर लाइक यू डोंट एक्चुअली नीड अ लॉ, इट्स फाइन, आप कुछ भी कर लें.
या आई थिंक देन वो के जो मूवमेंट्स एक चीज के लिए काम कर रहे हैं, आई थिंक देम कमिंग ऑन द सेम प्लेटफॉर्म और अलाइनिंग विद देमसेल्व्स के जी पीटीएम अगर इज फॉर पश्तून राइट्स, it's a singular agenda. It might not be as feminist as one would like, but what they're talking about is maybe what the biggest issue for them is. It's literally just staying alive.
और वहाँ की औरतों के लिए भी सबसे बड़ा मसला यही है. So it's not just a men's issue, is it? Somebody goes missing.
The female body becomes the place where all politics are done, right? So instance, even when your research about the Muslim woman in India, I think प्लेस ऑफ पॉलिटिक्स वो बन जाती है सबके लिए कि हमने अपना एजेंडा यहीं से फर्दर करना है, कुछ करना नहीं है उनके लिए टू मेक देयर लाइफ बेटर, लेकिन पॉलिटिक्स सारी इसी पे करनी है हमने.
नहीं, women are just very symbolic, na? Their bodies are symbolic, but their actual humanity is not valued.
Do you think we're moving beyond identity politics? I feel पाकिस्तान में तो अब आ रहा है, दुनिया थोड़ी अब critical हो गई of identity politics, but for instance, like we were talking about intersectionality, we were talking about multiple identities. There's also shutting down of different conversations just based on your identity, right? So if somebody rejects a PTM rally कि वो manal था stage पर, just like wait, should you just reject it on that basis? What's your
I think like ये identity politics वाला issue इतना, it's not like such a big deal in our context yet. I do think it's more of an issue in places like, as far as I can tell, United States में जिस तरह से like cancel culture ये सारी चीजें, but it's definitely coming here, and with globalization and with social media and all of that, I think especially younger folks are kind of getting affected by this approach. So it's important for us to keep critiquing that way of doing politics and try to think of ways of expanding and thinking of identities outside of little boxes, because that's not how people actually live. But yeah, I don't think अभी तक पाकिस्तान में मुझे नहीं लगता कि इतना मसला है. लम्स में शायद है, लम्स में ये सारी चीजें काफी आ गई हैं.
पे भी काफी है ना, कुछ कैंसिल कल्चर जो है हमारा वो तो बहुत ज्यादा है.
I guess it's like dependent on class quite a bit. So there's a particular class, urban English speaking, जिसमें ये सारी चीजें ज़्यादा हैं. But it's something I think we have to be very careful of. For sure.
So I mean, अभी मैंने जब Twitter पे पूछा था कि Nida Kirmani is going to be the next guest, a lot of people were also asking how you make sense of the fact that you're such a leftist but then you teach at an elite education institute. And अभी जब LUMS fee hike भी हुई थी, वो भी आपका मसला था कि यार ये
मैंने फी हाइक कराई ना,
सारे पैसे Nida Kirmani.
सारे पैसे मुझे मिल रहे हैं.
Literally, I think one of the most popular tweets is, I can't believe you have to pay 4 lakhs a month to take a course from Nida Kirmani or something like that.
I know, gosh.
कहाँ निदा इतने पैसे कहाँ क्या कर रही हैं आप?
बस यार, बस लॉकडाउन खत्म हो जाए तो मैं स्विट्जरलैंड अपने विद्यालय में जा रही हूँ. दैट्स इट. ये खत्म हो किसी तरह से. Yeah, it's always been something I've been uncomfortable with, to be honest. And like I told you, I didn't grow up in Pakistan, and I only moved here in 2011. And I think people don't really know that. Like मैं पाकिस्तान में
मत बताएं यार, आप अपनी जो dual identity है ना मत बताएं, वो I think prove हो जाएगा.
I know, I'm always surprised, like so many people go after me, and I hope that my trolls wouldn't stick around till this point in the conversation, because they'll be like, ये क्या हो रहा है?
ये फायदा होता है लंबे पॉडकास्ट करने का, haters सुनते नहीं है पूरी.
ये तो intersectionality की बात कर रही हैं. तो but I think people assume that I grew up here, and then they kind of, yeah, it's problematic, because I'm a very recent entrant into the world of Pakistani politics, and so I'm learning all the time. But anyway, the point you asked me about LUMS. So I moved to LUMS in 2011 because I was working in the UK, and हमारा जो partner हमारी universities जो partner थी India में, there was I think JNU, Pakistan में there was LUMS, few other countries. So I had come to LUMS before I was familiar with them. And when my contract finished in England, because I just had a contract for 4 or 5 years, so it just made sense for me to come to Pakistan, and then LUMS kind of made sense as the place I would come, because I knew it before, and it's a, for all of our critique of LUMS, it's a great place to work. It really is, So I just thought I may as well, and my parents were living in Karachi by then, so it was kind of a sensible choice to make at that time. Maybe research bhi India, Pakistan mein. P or hai. So once I came and some years passed, I realized that I would have, I'm missing out a lot by teaching in a private university and in an elite private university. And I think public universities mein jo engagement aapki hoti hai, ho sakti hai, it's a lot broader than what we get to do at LUMS. The students are great. Like, as you know, I think you studied at LUMS as well. right? So एक बहुत limited population वहाँ आती है. So you don't get the kind of cross section that you get in a place like, for example, Qaid-e-Azam University, right? Like where पूरे मुल्क से लोग आ रहे हैं, and you also have class diversity as well. So I do feel like I miss out on that. At the same time, like it's in many ways, like I said, it's a great place to work. And so part of me is like also just I have to say I'm looking out for myself, like many of us do. Like I have a good job, and I have a decent teaching load. I get to do research. People don't question me for what I say on social media or anywhere, or the kind of research that I do. That's a huge plus point. So what I try to do is balance that out by making sure I do lectures in other universities and public institutions. And definitely social media is not an egalitarian space, but I think one of the reasons I'm so active on there is just because it gives me a chance to at least reach out to folks who might not be studying at LUMS and have, conversations with them. So anytime I can engage with students outside of LUMS, I'm really happy to do so. But abhi tak, I feel like it's still the best place for me to teach right now in Pakistan. And teaching in public university is tough. Yaar, Amar Ali Jan ko dekho, like he tried at GCU, then he tried at Punjab University, then he was at FC. And hats off to him. I have so much respect for him, for Asim Sajjad, for all the people who are struggling to teach in public universities because they're doing amazing work. So it's a guilty conscience that I always have. But at the same time, like, let's just remember कि LUMS में भी ठीक है, elite university है, लेकिन students middle class से भी होते हैं. We have a national outreach program, so we get students from different parts of the country as well. So it's not as purely elite as everyone thinks it is sometimes.
I think LUMS unnecessarily बहुत ज़्यादा drag होता है, especially on Twitter. Every other day there is an anti-LUMS movement and everybody hates it. It's really not that bad. I think in Pakistan it's quite an oasis, especially as a student living there. थोड़ा bubble है, you do feel like आप पाकिस्तान से अलग रह रहे हैं. But it is not as bad as people might pretend or want to think it is.
No, people love to hate LUMS, and that's something I've actually tried to understand as well, like sociologically. क्यों इतनी नफरत है LUMS के खिलाफ? I don't really get it, but है, and it's also a kind of symbol, I think, as well for a lot of folks, a symbol of elitism. तो वो भी गुस्सा लोग LUMS पे निकालते हैं.
I think बहुत ज़्यादा गुस्सा ऑनलाइन जो निकलता है वो लोग रियलाइज नहीं करते is quite dictated by jealousy as well. I mean, like for instance, if people go after me being like, why do you think Shahzad's a comedian? He's not funny. Like, okay, then you can unfollow me, you can block me, you cannot come to my shows. I'm not forcing you. But the fact that you tweet that is like, why is he getting attention? Or why is he a comedian to begin with? Why am I not one? So LUMS काफी इस वजह से भी आते हैं कि जी हम नहीं गए LUMS. Then it sort of gets associated with all liberal ideas कि अगर LUMS में लोग डांस भी कर रहे हैं तो everything that's wrong with Pakistan वो LUMS की ही वजह से है.
And also, I think recently what we've seen is कि LUMS में बहुत सारे professors हैं मेरी तरह who are like quite critical, and becoming more vocal. And पहले शायद ये इतना trend नहीं था. So when I joined in 2011, not many folks were that. I mean, social media इस तरह से था ही नहीं as well. But in the last few years, it's not just me, but there's a handful of other professors who are quite vocal. The students of course, like would be vocal as well. So एक anti-state or वो भी एक impression बन गया LUMS का.
I mean, when I was there, we led an entire movement against the emergency imposition of tariff while they were there. Asim Sajjad was there. I think Rasool Baksh Rais was in one of the FIRs. So social media इतना नहीं था, but ये सब तो फिर भी था वहाँ पर. So I don't think it's just now that you have a lot more critical voices. I think that's
you're right. You're right. I think was वक्त भी था, and when I came in 2011, that had died down. I think lawyers movement was a few years before that, no? So and then Asim left and went to Qaid-e-Azam, so that changed things. फिर Anusha Hassan कुछ लोग बाहर PhDs के लिए चले गए. So there was like a little lull, and then it kind of came back. But you're right. I think LUMS has always been a place.
So I mean, apart from the attention, unfortunately, LUMS के जो students हैं, they also are pretty loud in terms of their criticism online. तो ये जो एक hyper woke and outwoking each other culture ban gaya hai. I mean, it's probably not LUM specific, absolutely, but in certain elite institutions, you see students who have learned some things and then they want to throw that into the faces of everybody else. And it's a competition about who's more woke, and if somebody's just a little less woke than you, then वो cancel culture में turn हो जाता है.
I mean, the thing is, I've seen kind of peripherally seen this happening. लेकिन मैं इतना closely नहीं follow करती हूँ. I know, I mean, the thing is, students are undergrad students, yeah, like they're kids, you know, so
I
they
don't
do.
think they realize that though. I don't think they realize that.
No, none of us did. I didn't either. Definitely, none of us did at that time. They're really mature in so many ways and wonderful and intelligent and great. But in other ways, like they're still just in their early 20s, late teens sometimes. So obviously, like you can't expect them to be the most mature, like anybody at that age. And I think, like we're saying, LUMS students, the pressure bhi bahut zyada hota hai that they have to be held up to this particular standard, and if they slip up, but like please, they're undergrad students, like any undergrad students, they're gonna be inappropriate sometimes. But एक entitlement तो definitely है, जो class entitlement है, like even as diverse as we wish LUMS was, it's still largely elite. So elite वाली entitlement तो हमारे students के अंदर बहुत है. And that comes out, and the students we have that are from middle class backgrounds or lower middle class backgrounds, they suffer a lot because of it.
I think it's quite hard for them to balance that as well, right? They're young, so they're passionate, they've learned a few things, so there is a political will to do something, and they don't have many platforms. So just before Cyclops learned how to control his eyes, it's just वो हर जगह निकल जाता है उनका गुस्सा. And the thing you said about letting them make mistakes, for instance, something like Dank Pana, when it happened at LUMS, a lot of people were asking for all 600 students to be suspended or rusticated, and then you're like, part of the diversity is people are coming from all sort of backgrounds. आपको नहीं पता कि जी NUP program अगर आ रहे हैं, वो अगर अपने गांव से आता है या कहीं से आता है, वो क्या सीख कर आता है. Part of it being an educational institution is people learning, and nobody should ever feel unsafe on campus. But then on the flip side, you can't kick out 600 students. So when things like that happen, how do you combat?
I mean, that was hard. I think also as a teacher, I found that moment very difficult, because a lot of our students, of course, rightfully were very angry about it. At the same time, I knew that the people behind the page were also our students, and they were wrong for what they did, but approaching it in this very harsh, punitive manner, it's like not going to solve the problem. It's really, we have to figure out, and this is generally whenever there is this kind of sexist incident, kahin bhi, to come down so hard and expel them or is tarah se, it's actually just going to make the problem a lot worse, because the whole issue with Dank Pano is that kind of page was there to react against over PC culture, and we're going to be really, shocking and say whatever the heck we want, ye sara kuch, kyunki hum nahi bol sakte us tarah se. So this kind of feeling of victimization that a lot of young men especially have, which, as much as I don't like it, I have to try to understand कि ये क्यों हो रहा है, and expelling those students is not going to make that feeling go away. It might just make it worse, or it might make this page go more underground. Yeah, WhatsApp groups में ये shift हो जाएगा जिस तरह से हो रहा है. Like there's all these all male groups, as far as I know, जहाँ बहुत सारी sexist बातें होती हैं. So it doesn't make the sexism go away by punishing it in that way. Like we have to figure out how we talk about it, and I think that we probably didn't have the conversation that we needed to have at that time with the students about like what's behind these kinds of pages. Especially why are young men creating these kinds of pages on social media? How can we undo this kind of sexism rather than, but I get why the students were so angry about it. But then jab social media uske upar aa jata hai, then it's also like it makes it so much worse. Like jo log bahar baithe hain unko pata bhi nahi hai ki andar institution mein kya baatein ho rahi hain, kya ho raha hai. It makes all of the kind of education work that you're trying to do very, very difficult.
Yeah, I think वो ये ना pile on और add on हो जाते हैं कि जो LUMS से नफरत करते हैं for it being liberal or it having critical voices, then जो बात कर रहा था कि co-opting woke terminology just to further your agenda, वो चीज़ भी उसका हिस्सा बन जाती है. How do you have both these conversations? It's quite hard, right? Just somebody just tweeted at me that Nida Kirmani asked her about justifying killings, and I was like, when did she justify some killings? And
you know what they're talking about, na?
I don't know what they're talking about because I didn't follow the story. But आपकी मैंने tweet देखी थी जो उसने post की थी.
कौन सी tweet थी? वो students जो
students
में
थे
थे.
कोई, मुझे नहीं पता, मैंने नहीं story follow की, तो आप बता दें कि what happened
So
and what.
there were two students who were from Balochistan. उनके नाम, they're actually escaping me right now.
Was that one of them? Wahadat or Shahadat or something like that?
Haddad Baloch or Ehsan. And they were students at Quaid-e-Azam University. And one of them, Ehsan, I think was actually gender studies student, or Shaddad, I don't know, kya pad raha tha, Pakistan studies shed. And they were MPhil students. And they were, I never met them before, but they were the kind of students that you meet like at protests and who organize, who are involved in left politics, and they were very, very active. Protests mein jaate the, sara kuch. And then some, I think last year at some point they kind of went off the radar, and then they were, they were killed a few weeks ago by the law enforcement agencies in Balochistan, and it was found that they were members of the BLA. So जब ये खबर आई है, actually I was so worried about the trolls that for once I didn't say anything. And then I saw other folks tweeting as well, and I was like, yeah, kuch bolna to chahiye. Like one would express grief for the fact that these two young men would decide to take up arms and go that route rather than sticking to a non-violent form of struggle. So मैंने इसी तरह की कोई tweet की कि like how sad that young men would feel so alienated that they would choose to join an armed resistance group rather than sticking to non-violence. अब ये जो right-wing trolls हैं, उन्होंने ये बात को लेके they decided that meant that I was supporting the BLA, that I was justifying killings, और unfortunately उसके 4-5 दिन बाद 6 FC soldiers were killed in Balochistan as well, and the BLA I think claimed responsibility for that. And so जब वो हुआ, उसके फौरन बाद लोगों ने फिर tweet दोबारा करना शुरू किया कि Nida Kirmani must be so happy now. And I think that was one of the points where I was like, I'm so done with social media. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, how could people sink so low to say that I or other progressives would rejoice at anyone's death or in the death of like innocent soldiers? Like, unki bhi galti nahi hai na, jo state policies hain, wo bhi isme phase hue hain, and they're also dying unnecessarily. So I think, again, like that kind of nuance is lost. And then on top of that, you have these trolls who are just coming at you with this kind of crazy propaganda. So again, like I just block people who say stuff like that, because for me, that crosses a line. Like if you actually think or want people to think that that's what I believe, then you are so far gone that we can't really have a conversation.
But it's about poisoning the waters, right? Okay, if they can treat you as somebody who rejoices at the death of innocent soldiers, then आप फिर कल जो भी बात करें वो फिर it will be used to just poison the waters कि अब उस पानी से जो भी चीज आएगी वो poisoned है, because they once found something and painted you as such, and people don't even read or go into the details. They'll just nuance it, right? They'll just
and even you like follow me and we know each other, but you didn't know. So if you didn't know me at all, you could just see a tweet like that and be like, oh wow, okay, she's a BLA supporter, that's it. And that's what they want to happen.
Yeah. And आपका जो was it Lahore Literature Festival where you were banned from speaking? Which was it? There was some festival at Alhambra जहाँ you and Amar Ali Jan were invited and disinvited.
फैज मेला हुआ था, उसमें मुझे इनवाइट ही नहीं किया था, अमार को किया था और अमार को फिर डिसइनवाइट किया. Then मुझे like Quetta Literature Festival से बैन नहीं किया, एक बार मैं गई, and then next time I think they were told that they couldn't invite me. So they didn't disinvite me, they just didn't invite me in the first place. And एक कोई students वाला group था, ISEC, वहाँ से Amar and I got disinvited from there. Invite करके फिर उन्होंने retract किया.
तो ये आप हैं रेडार पर?
Oh yeah. Radar पर हूँ, and that's, it's okay. I think like क्या कर सकते हैं? Hopefully everything will be fine. What can you do? You just have to try to do what's right and hope for the best,
Did you
isn't it?
get like calls or something from
Thank
even from
you.
well wishers के थोड़ा ख्याल
Well,
करो?
से बहुत calls आती हैं कि आप थोड़े दिन चुप रहें, just be a little bit, take it easy, break ले लो, कुछ नहीं होता है. And I appreciate it. And I also have to be a little bit sensible because, like I said, I didn't grow up here, so I don't know कि यहाँ के dynamics क्या है. And so when somebody advises me, I actually do appreciate, depending on who it is, but I appreciate it for the most part a lot. Because I don't think I understood the extent of repression that exists here. जब आप बाहर रहते हैं आपको नहीं पता चलता है. Like you don't know I didn't know anything. I was pretty ignorant about Pakistani politics. मैं जिस तरह से as you know, मैंने PhD भी इंडिया में किया था. So I lived in India for 3 years. I had never lived in Pakistan before 2011. So I think for many of us, it was Sabine Mahmood's murder that really changed things and drove home the kind of, I mean, we knew कि बलूचिस्तान में फाटा में इस तरह की चीजें हो रही हैं और गलत हो रहा है, लेकिन we just didn't think कि ये कराची, लाहौर, यहाँ भी ऐसे हो सकता है. Of course कराची में हो रहा था, लाहौर में भी हो रहा था, लेकिन it was just one of us. So I think that also was a little bit of a wake up call. Okay, like, it's nobody's really safe. Some are safe, some are safer than others, and I think shukar hai, like I'm very, very, very privileged, and I appreciate it a lot. And I think that's why I'm also more vocal. एक तो गिल्ट है मेरा कि मैं लम्स में पढ़ाती हूँ और मैं बबल में रह रही हूँ और आइवरी टावर में रह रही हूँ. So I think that's also why I make an effort to use that position to like get out opinions or critiques that might not be as acceptable in the mainstream media. And the other thing is that I am from the United States, so wo bhi hai. So I have like a lot of things that I hope are keeping me. I hope are keeping me protected. But I also know that the line is always moving, and we don't really know who could be next and who might be made an example of. And I think jab Sabine ke saath hua, and I'm in Karachi now, and this happened like just down the street from us. It was like just literally next door. So I think I think that was also, one of the points as well. It's like making people realize that nobody is safe.
Yeah, and I think it hit close to home for a lot of us, especially the artist community in Karachi. It felt too real. जिस तरह हम भी सुनते रहते हैं खबरें, even अगर bomb blast होते हैं, like अच्छा चलो फाटा में हो रहा है, ठीक है. Somehow it doesn't hit as close. अगर कराची में हो, it'll hit more, even if less people die than as opposed to फाटा. जब आपसे करीब होता है, it hits. Like जिस तरह अभी भी a lot of people LUMS के were like, oh, this is the flight we would have taken had coronavirus not happened. It probably hit a lot more close to them because they're like, we could have been on that flight. So जीवन जब हम कहानियां सुनते हैं कि जी बलोच स्टूडेंट्स को उठा लिया या मार दिया, it doesn't hit us as hard as maybe अगर किसी लम स्टूडेंट के साथ किया होता.
And I think that's where the anger comes from too, ना कि हमारे साथ इस like बलोच जो दोस्त हैं वो कहेंगे कि हमारे साथ तो ये होता रहता है, आप लोग कुछ नहीं कहते हैं, So that's why I think again coming back to Salman's tweet, like that's the anger there. ये flight पे the people who were on that flight were largely people who were very privileged, of course, to be able to take a flight like this. So why is it that these privileged folks are getting so much attention, or जो लोग आम लोग जब मरते हैं तो कोई आवाज नहीं उठाता है? So it is what it is.
I think it's all this is different because it's also a national tragedy. I think it.
No, of course, but I think it is like this. You cry for people who are elite a lot more, and people do, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't, or that it's not a tragedy. But I think reaction is what you say.
It's also a little natural, right? It's also a little natural. I know. I mean, if you die more for a friend, obviously. People who had loved ones on the flight, it affects them more than me.
Of course, but यही तो बात है ना कि जो लोग privileged नहीं है वो कहेंगे कि हम we know so many people who died और आप लोग for us they're our friends, for us they're our family और आप कुछ नहीं कहते. So that's the thing. And I think the folks who were on that flight were the kind of people who had a lot of friends on social media as well, journalists भी थे और model भी थी. So people know them, so they get their loss gets amplified in a way. And I guess those who are not, who are not privileged, उनको फिर शायद कुछ लोगों को गुस्सा आएगा कि हमारे बारे में आप लोग क्यों नहीं इस तरह से बात करते.
So you've done a lot of work in Lyari as well. It's a place that's faced a lot of violence. What impact does violence or repeated violence like this has on a community? I think, like, if we talk about FATA and Balochistan, BLA as well, बहुत क्लीन कट लगता है हमें, राइट, कि जी BLA ने उठकर किसी को मार दिया तो लाइक ओ टेररिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, टेरिबल पीपल, बट देन यू डोंट एक्नॉलेज द सिस्टमैटिक वायलेंस. जिस तरह आपने भी अगर उसकी बात की, suddenly you it somehow became like you were justifying violence, which you're not. तो specifically in Lyari, what are your observations कि इतना ज़्यादा violence जब होता है community में, what happens, how do they react?
I mean, I started doing research there in 2012. So 2012 mein Aman Committee was in control of much of Lyari, not all of Lyari. And then 2013 mein, I guess the operation started and things started kind of breaking up. But there was, for the first few years I was there was a lot of fear. Just people were scared to speak and very insecure and very distrustful of each other. So I think in any conflict-ridden area, this is just like a microcosm of conflict areas that we have across Pakistan. So ये इस तरह की mistrust बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाती है, and then that leads to kind of fragmentation within the community. Everyone's always looking over their back. Everyone's wondering where the other person is coming from. तो social fabric आपकी फिर काफ़ी इससे damage हो जाती है. तो लियारी में भी वो हुआ था, और I'm sure कि बलूचिस्तान में यही हाल है, and former FATA, other areas that have been through conflict. There is a lot of mistrust amongst people, and that has very, very negative impact. And then बहुत सारी जो violence होती है, like for example domestic violence वगैरह, like that, it becomes even harder for that to come out because everyone's kind of affected by this fear and immobilized by this fear in different ways. And so, yeah, a lot of my work there was about that fear and how people coped with that. But at the same time, I think like Lyari was also so sensationalized that the fact that it was just like a regular place in many ways too was forgotten. And that's, like I even said, I think in that TED talk we did, you did on the same day as I did, कि मतलब Lyari is to Karachi what Karachi is to Pakistan and Pakistan is to the rest of the world. So it was like, just like जो बाहर से लोग आते हैं पाकिस्तान आते हैं, they're like, how do you live here, इतना मतलब खौफ और इतनी वायलेंस है वहाँ, आप लोग कहाँ से. मेरे कजिन्स खुद अमेरिका में जो है वो नहीं आते हैं डर के मारे, and we're like, dude, we're human beings and we're living here and we're fine. और जो लाहौर में लोग कराची के बारे में सोचें, इस्लामाबाद में, कि कराची में it's like a war zone, and for Karachiites we're like, hello, it's a city of almost 20 million people and life is going on. So Lyari maybe it's like 1.5 million population, and the years of conflict were really bad, but at the same time there was a lot more going on there beyond just conflict. And I think what happens is this like whole area gets painted with this brush of being this no-go area and this like conflict zone, and it's a very lively, vibrant place. And Uswat bhi tha. It's a lot better now, but us zamane bhi life was going on.
And there's some brilliant art coming out of Lyari now as well, but हम study नहीं करते ना. There are very few studies which are done. So even right now, जब social media में हम देख रहे हैं कि जी dead bodies share हो रही हैं, videos share हो रहे हैं, सबने videos निकाल ली, and एक almost violence fetish है. We've also a little desensitized to violence. So yes, for us who live here, we've become accustomed to it, or it's usual. But maybe a woman who's sitting in the United States might come to Karachi and feel a lot more fear than a normal person, because a lot of things we've become accustomed to might be strange to her. It could be even as simple as walking home at 2 a.m. It's not normal for us. तो एक desensitization to violence भी तो हो चुकी है. तो I feel like very few studies are done on the mental impact that repeated and continuous violence and living with that dust, whatever that does to you.
I mean, I don't know if anyone ever becomes desensitized 100%, but definitely when you're living with violence, you have to have different kinds of coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
And you find ways to manage. And I think जब आप बाहर होते हैं, जब आप उस situation में नहीं है, what you imagine is it could be a lot worse than what's actually happening. But the people who are dealing with it are also finding ways to cope all the time. Like it's not, I don't know, ये resilience वाली जो narrative है ना कराची के बारे में कि हम resilient हैं, we bounce back. Like I think it definitely affects you. It takes a toll on that city or on that community, and it's definitely has a negative impact. But yeah, you're right. We need to try to understand that dynamic a lot more. And I think some of my work was trying to figure that out. And एक हमने अखबार पे भी एक पेपर लिखा था, एक मेरा दोस्त है लोगों गया, तो उनके साथ we tried to figure out कि sensational news का जो impact है लोगों पे, like how are people engaging with violence through the media as well. But we have a lot more work to do on that in Pakistan. And Karachi में कुछ काम हुआ, लेकिन Karachi में भी बहुत कम है. But we really know very little about other areas in the country that have gone through this kind of violence.
What impact does violent images in the newspaper have? I think आपका वो काम वो लियारी में जो dead bodies की वो तस्वीरें दिखाते हैं, almost celebrated them, right? कि yes, ये एक डाकू था, ये एक डकैत था, उसको मार दिया. There's certain headlines which almost celebrate that and show the dead body.
Yeah, there was a kind of like Bollywood kind of flavor to those tabloids as well, and they were tabloids. And even I, in many ways, became used to looking, because I used to look at that newspaper every day, and so I would forget that, I mean, these are people who lost their lives. So एक बार मुझे याद है किसी की तस्वीर थी who was killed in a target killing by the police, and वही gangster, this whole, उसका नाम, उसका उर्फ और ये सारा कुछ उसमें लिखा था. And I went to somebody's house and was just talking to them about the newspaper, and they took out that very issue and they showed me the photo and they said, this is our son, and he actually got out of jail and he reformed himself, और वो ठीक हो रहा था, वो काम पे जा रहा था, and he was killed by either the police or the rangers, मुझे याद नहीं है. And it hit me कि like I was looking at this photo, and of course I didn't think it was funny, I didn't think it was a joke, but I just looked at it and I moved on. And then I realized कि यार ये तो किसी का बेटा था, ये किसी का भाई था, and I was really not engaging with the fact, So of course when we're bombarded with these kinds of images, कहीं ना कहीं तो हमारी coping mechanism भी होती है कि we can't really, process it, because if you process the gravity of that kind of violence, so you would go crazy.
We don't even give other people a chance, right? अगर कोई traumatic image है, and we know we live in a city where so many people have suffered so much and there's been so much violence. तो अगर कोई dead body casually share कर रहे हैं आप social media पे, तो कुछ भी वो PTSD trigger कर सकता है, कुछ भी trauma trigger कर सकता है. Like even when we talk about the recent airline crash, everybody knows people, right? Air Blue happened when I was at LUMS, and I know people whose siblings were there. That's immediately what they will think back to. तो आप जब report कर रहे होते हैं, having some ethics, having some sensitivity goes a long way.
But then the kind of like anthropologist in me says that, people also have very different relationship with dead bodies and with photos of dead bodies. And I think I agree. Like I really don't ever want to see photos of dead bodies in my WhatsApp or on my Twitter feed. But I also have seen other people, I don't know, like they're taking photos of people who died or family members or wo share kar rahe hain, and they mean no disrespect to the person who died. In fact, it's kind of like a commemoration of them. Or हमारी जो sensibility है, जो भी है हम उसको Western कहते हैं या कुछ भी कहते हैं, like maybe we are also like we have a different, like this whole idea of being triggered, and like there is it's coming from a particular kind of culture, which doesn't mean it's wrong. But I do think that for other people, this idea just doesn't exist in that way. Like photo of dead body does not trigger them like that, And Lyari में जब ये dead bodies की तस्वीरें आती थी अखबारों में, so people would say that we used to be not happy, certainly not, but relieved कि हमें कम से कम पता तो चला है कि कौन मरा है, और अगर किसी का भाई गायब है या किसी का मियाँ गायब है, then once they see the photo, it's like उनको यकीन आ जाता है कि he's gone, otherwise he's just missing.
I mean, imagine finding out through the newspaper, right?
I know, but imagine just never finding out. So it's like people's bar is so low as well, you know, like nobody expects कि कोई पुलिस वाले या रेंजर्स घर पे आके अफसोस करेंगे या बताएंगे आपको, you know, तमीज से कि ये हुआ है आपके,
बट
you
अब
know,
हमें
तो
ये भी पता चल गया है ना, अब तो सबको पता है कि चलने पहले तो कंजेक्चर था, अब तो एविडेंस है कि कितने फेक इनकाउंटर्स होते हैं, सबको पता है, नेशनल न्यूज़ है. सो दैट डिसेंसिटाइजेशन की जब हम बात कर रहे थे कि पीपल आर इवन गेटिंग हैप्पी कि आपका रिलेटिव नहीं है, कि ठीक है ये डाकू था मर गया, गुड. या इवन अगर पाकिस्तान में, एंड ऑब्वियसली अगर चाइल्ड अब्यूज हैपन, इट्स द वर्स्ट थिंग इन द वर्ल्ड, बट आवर इमीडिएट रिएक्शन इज इसको सड़क पे टांग दो. नो, किड्स शुड नॉट सी अ हैंगिंग बॉडी. पब्लिक हैंगिंग्स are not how civilized nations deal with things. या अगर हम APS की बात करें, kids were scared to go to their own schools because they saw APS. Kids, I mean, as an adult, I couldn't sleep after watching that. Should we have aired that? Should that be part of everybody's national psyche? It's अगर कुछ लोग desensitize हो भी जाते हैं और cope कर भी सकते हैं, I don't think we should force everybody to. And under the assumption,
it's a difficult one, ना, because अक्सर मैं ये भी देखती हूँ कि जो like friends who are, or people I follow who might be supporters of the PTM, or जो missing persons के खिलाफ जो लोग campaign कर रहे हैं, sometimes they'll also share photos of people who've been killed by law enforcement agencies या bodies अगर मिलती हैं, and there's a political kind of impetus behind that as well, कि जब तक लोगों को पता नहीं चलेगा कि कितना gruesome है और कितनी उनके साथ कितना तशद्दुद हो रहा है, तो nobody's gonna feel it. So ये भी है, people are also using it, so it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I don't like seeing it, but I also kind of try to understand why people might be doing it.
Okay, in the PTM context, slightly different, right? I get it. जिस तरह वो जो एक Turkish बीच पर एक बच्चे की तस्वीर थी, जब I forgot the name of the child, लाल, हाँ, it did a lot for the refugee crisis, that single image. I think it raised a lot of consciousness. फिर अमेरिका में this black man was falsely accused of whistling at a white girl in a black neighborhood. तो उसके घर जाकर उसकी जो ब्रूटैलिटी के साथ उसका मर्डर किया था, एंड देन द मदर इंसिस्टेड ऑन ओपन कास्केट. उसकी ब्रूटैलिटी देखकर पीपल लाइक ओके नो वेट, आई थिंक इट डिड अ लॉट फॉर द सिविल राइट्स मूवमेंट एंड मेकिंग पीपल कॉन्शियस ऑफ द रेसिज्म. सो आई गेट द वैल्यू ऑफ दैट, बट इस केस में तो काफी वॉयरिज्म था. आई डोंट सी व्हाट यू गेट बाय शेयरिंग डेड बॉडीज प्लेन के अंदर on social media. I don't think there's anything political in that, or maybe just because we've seen them so much कि हम desensitize हो गए. Like for instance, Karachi when I grew up, रोज खबर आती थी 13 people died yesterday, 17 people died yesterday. So any day 10 से कम हो, we'd be happy.
Yeah, you think अच्छा कुछ भी.
आज कल तो बहुत अच्छा दिन था कि कराची में 10 से कम लोग मरे हैं. तो but then you have to realize कि वो अगर 7 लोग भी मरे तो वो 7 families हैं, उनका क्या impact होता है. And I don't think we see people as individuals. Even जो resilience का narrative है, क्यों है? Why are we forced to be resilient, right? अब मतलब अभी भी हम कह रहे हैं कि जी वो शहीद थे, क्यों? आप, it's a way for us to not discuss systematic failures. Even कोरोना की हम बात करें, like कोरोना से शहीद हो गए,
मतलब हमारे यहाँ तो सब शहीद होते हैं ना, कोई भी मरता है तो शहीद, unless they are officially a member of like a terrorist group, तो then otherwise they're शहीद. Or, and like you said, this is just a way of not talking about the reasons why this happened. And I mean, how is dying in a plane crash being shaheed? Like, doesn't make any sense. I find the word itself so problematic. चाहे वो किसी के लिए भी इस्तेमाल हो, even if it's for soldiers, and this is a controversial thing to say, but I think कि अगर आप उनको शहीद कह रहे हैं, so that's also a way of somehow justifying their death. And I don't want to justify anyone's death. I think all human life is valuable, and whether it's a soldier or whether it's somebody who joined a extremist group, I don't want them to die. I don't think that calling them shaheed is going to you know, it's really doing them a disservice and doing like our ability to understand what led to that kind of violence. It's really hampering that.
it's also everything that comes with that narrative. अभी किसी एक्टर ने कमेंट भी कर दिया था ज़ारा की न्यूज़ पर के आई विश इट वाज मी व्हाट अ लकी डेथ आपको शहादत मिली है एंड जब एपीएस I think some other actor commented ke what like I wish I was in your place that you were lucky enough
Because it
uh,
was Jumatul with her.
sorry
Because it was
because it
Jumatul
was
with her.
shahadat no because it was shahadat and
But why is it Shahad? I mean, I also think that because it was Choti Eid or something yesterday, कुछ लोगों को लगता है कि तो सी बहुत मुबारक दिन था, तो they're going to go straight to heaven. Like there's some kind of religious justification that's going
so
on there.
even when APS happened one of the mothers उनसे जाके इसी तरह से मीडिया एथिक्स होते नहीं है इसी तरह से कुछ कहा गया था and her response was कि यार अगर आपको इतनी खुशी है तो आप अपने बेटे को जाके शहीद कर दें राइट लाइक somebody's child has died how can you go and congratulate that person कि जी shahadat like it's everything that comes with that narrative which then becomes problematic how we deal with it how we talk about it right अब फिर अभी ट्विटर पे खैर ट्विटर is a toxic aspect even like the stuff that's being said about Zara right it's just despicable
I saw something really horrible as well. Really horrible. So this is when you're like, I'm happy that I live in this bubble and I really don't want to see like all of this disgusting stuff that's on there because I can't, there's only so much you can process at one time. It's hard enough dealing with what's going on. And then it's just, yeah, there's only so much one can handle.
हम स्पेस भी नहीं देते ना एवरीबॉडी इज नाउ लाइक अ ग्रीफ एक्सपर्ट कि हम बताएंगे सबको कैसे ग्रीफ करना है
हाँ एविएशन एक्सपर्ट्स भी हो गए सब ये हुआ था एग्जैक्टली ये हुआ था फिर
सैड कर दिया है निदा आपने सबको आज
क्या कर दिया
सैड कर दिया आपने सबको
सैड कर दिया तो कोई हैप्पी बात करो फिर
I can't think of much I think मैं खुद I've been quite I do think humor plays a great role. I don't think people are very conscious of the fact. I do feel humor has the power to heal, and I get कि Western sensibility है, but even Pakistan, may I know of funerals where loved ones get together and share a joke or two, even about the deceased, just as a way of a coping mechanism. But
we need more humor, Shazad. You need to do some more stand-up shows, and
I think अभी तो गालियाँ
invite people funnier than me on here to talk about silly stuff.
Everybody who on Twitter thinks they're funnier than me, they're more than welcome to come and perform with me. Is there anything in particular you want to talk about? Is there anything
no,
out on?
I'm good. I think
100 questions that we got. Somebody was even
बहुत
like,
सारे अजीब से सवाल थे, अच्छे भी थे कुछ उसमें.
Somebody was like, I don't mean to offend either of you, but can you ask her why she's so stupid? I'm like, ये तो offensive नहीं है ना, ये तो बिल्कुल
stupid.
हाँ, इसमें offensive क्या था? इसमें कौन कोई offend देगा? I don't mean to be offensive, but
क्या सवाल है? मुझे तो
मैंने इसके लिए रिप्लाई किया. मैंने बोला ये तो बिल्कुल offensive बात नहीं है, इसलिए मैं आपसे पहले पूछ लेता हूँ.
Thank you so much. बहुत शुक्रिया. I think that like one thing I would love to I find myself really like I feel really stupid, but I just don't get the amount of hate. Like sometimes I'm actually blown away by people ask me how I cope with it. I think I'm in denial of it because I'm like, why? Like it's ठीक है, nobody's perfect. Maybe भी बहुत सारी negative चीजें हैं, लेकिन this amount of hate for like a sociology professor, really? Like what? Why are you so angry? Like I'm just confounded by it many times. मैं अक्सर पूछती भी हूँ उनको कि like hey, like what's that? What's going on, man? Like why do you hate me so much? Just tell me because I would love to know.
Then they have no answers.
करो, लेकिन नफरत क्यों करते हो मुझसे?
Then they have no answers.
No, they're also like I think this also social media creates these personas and these trolls create these personas of you as well. So then people are full of anger and frustration. तो कहाँ direct करें उसको? I also understand like people are angry, and so if you find an easy target, then just like let her have it because
in terms of identity politics, let's just bring this discussion to a close. ये भी किसी ने पूछा था कि you didn't so like identity की जिस तरह हम बात कर रहे थे, right? I did a podcast with Moiz where Moiz outlined the case of Kami Sid, where Kami Sid has been accused of raping a minor, and Moiz has been criticized कि ये transphobia है In fact, Moise was also taken off a panel. He's somebody who's transphobic, and for a certain woke crowd, being labeled transphobic to bus is a death sentence, and calling Moise transphobic is quite insane. Now, here's a case where the person who's trans has raped a minor, and usko ye कहना is being viewed as transphobic, which is insane. Just because this person's trans doesn't excuse the criminal behavior in this scenario. So somebody like the same moral absolute, and somebody was like Nida was being a Kami-Sid apologist. I was like, I didn't see that.
I think the problem with that and with other such cases, and I think Jami ki case mein bhi ye hua tha na, even in response to your question yesterday, so Jami came on and was asking you, why didn't you speak up? So Kami ke case mein bhi yahi maine kaha tha कि like this social media is not the place to make to have a guilty verdict, and I am not a judge, so I can say I support people who make claim, definitely, or any way that they can try to get justice, I will support them, but I won't come on to social media and just decide that this is I'm going to make a judgment about this, because and this is, I think, what made people uncomfortable, and they saw this as being an apologist, and I don't know what to say about that, but I do think that our justice system is really flawed. Yeah. And it is almost impossible for somebody who is a victim or survivor of sexual abuse or assault to get justice in our context. But I also don't think that just pronouncing guilt on social media is going to solve that. So I feel like we all need to think of a way of making the system more accountable so that people can actually get some kind of real justice. And so I think that, again, with social media, it became, this really kind of horrible mudslinging match where Moise ko bhi log keh rahe the, kuch na kuch mujhe bhi, Kami ko to keh rahe the, to, and anyone who took any kind of, and I was saying, just why does everyone in every situation have to necessarily say this person is guilty? Like, there's so many things we don't know. We just don't know. So is that okay to say, I don't know, as like, what is wrong with that? I don't know a lot of things. I don't know why that flight went down yesterday. I can say have an investigation. I can say have an inquiry. And with any kind of crime, I would say have an inquiry, but I can't just pronounce that as like, this is what happened. I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't, that's it.
So I think a lot of feminists and people would argue that one of the first rules is we believe survivors.
Yeah.
So इस case में तो would you equally not?
Kami wali case mein to the young woman, she had already died.
Yeah.
So so that was a very tricky one. I think there's a difference between I believe you and going online and just pronouncing somebody as I don't know. It's messy. It really is messy, Shazad. But I don't think it's black and white. And I think a lot of the questions about Me Too were about Me Too. Okay, how do you feel about that? And I think Me Too is really important, and has been really important in making it clearer that the justice system, not just in Pakistan but all over the world, is flawed, and the cards are stacked against anyone who's a victim of any kind of sexual abuse. But I also don't think the answer is that, we just kind of proclaim on social media that people are guilty because somebody, and I don't know if it's like human beings are human beings and they're complicated. So I don't know. That's why we have sexual harassment committees and commissions, and that's why we have this stuff. And feminists have worked really hard to put these mechanisms in place. So there's a reason for that.
I mean, the flip side is then, just सब कहते हैं court जाओ, but then something like Misha Shafi Ali Zafar case happens where it's dismissed on a technicality. It's dismissed on a technicality that they don't have an employer-employer relationship, but it's posited on social media as कि जी Misha Shafi झूठ बोल रही थी and Ali Zafar has won, and there's a big PR campaign. So like a case like that where, like you said, the cards are stacked so against you, if you're silent and you're saying I don't know it, like not you, anybody,
No, but even me, it's true.
If you're on the side of the oppressor, then, right? Like that famous quote.
Very difficult. ये with us or against us वाली बात हो जाती है, and I don't think the with us or against us is going to get us out of this. I mean, I agree. Like Misha Shafi ki case mein, Jami ki case mein, definitely this girl, this trans young woman who died, like unki case mein, the cards are stacked against them. But again, like it's not black and white. कि आप फिर solution ये है कि आप guilt pronounce कर ले social media पे and you're done and that person's cancelled and it's over. And I don't know. Like we need to find a better way, and I feel like we've hit a roadblock somehow after Me Too, because it's like one side says justice system is flawed, so just throw it out the window and believe survivors, and we just cancel that person forever. And the other side is saying, देखो ये feminists पागल हो गई हैं और ये झूठ बोलती हैं और they're always on the side of the person who's accused because all men are so we're not going to get out of this unless we can find mechanisms that are actually more sensitive to people who are making a claim, and that's going to require a lot of work. I don't know when we're going to get there. But we have to work on making the mechanisms better.
I do feel थोड़ी co-opt भी ज़्यादा हो गई थी, like जिस तरह इमामुल हक वाले केस में he was flirting with a few women and people were like Me Too, and one like no, it's not. Sometimes किसी के relationships टूट जाते हैं and then they had like Me Too, so it also diminishes. And obviously there have been a couple of cases out of a million, जिस तरह Amber Heard का बहुत famous case था of false accusations, but I don't think they speak to the entire movement. It takes a lot for a woman to come out in Pakistan. And even in Jami's case, it takes a lot for a man to come out and say that and stand up to so much ridicule. So it is quite a difficult decision. It would take a lot. So I think a belief survivor is also pegged on these considerations. कि यार एक पाकिस्तान जैसे मुल्क में जहाँ you have everything to lose, nothing to gain, putting yourself in that vulnerable position, I think it takes a lot. So that assumed support helps that person against the David और Goliath की जंग में इतने कार्ड स्टैक्ड हैं, तो एक सपोर्ट अगर हम assume belief survivors करके उसको अगर कोई 10,000 में से एक इंसान एक्सप्लॉइट करता है कि जी सपोर्ट मिलेगी तो मैं अपना एजेंडा या फॉरवर्ड कर दूं, I think that person needs to take a hard look at themselves and realize the hurt they might have caused the movement. But maybe that one instance does not speak to the movement itself, and unfortunately Pakistan mein, so I don't know if it's over or it's just done for, but
I don't think it's over. I think chal raha hai, chalega, and sexual abuse and harassment isn't going anywhere. And good thing is that now
man has
young feminists coming up who are much more aware and confident, and so I think Me Too's given a lot of young feminists a lot of confidence as well.
But I can't think of a single man whose career or anything has been hurt by it.
Well, it's very, 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 very rare if it happens. But I have found that like even friends who teach in lesser, like kind of friends in Quetta or teaching in Butham's University talk to me about professors in their university now being taken up for sexual harassment and being fired. And so these are cases that don't get a lot of attention on social media, but they do exist. So I do think uske ripple effects to hue hain. There's like a lot more awareness, and hopefully it'll keep growing.
Hopefully the movement.
But I don't think social media is going to solve it. I think it's important to get the issues out, but I think sometimes trying to resolve the issue there, decide ki ye hua ya ye nahi hua, like social media is not the kind of space where you can have any kind of complex discussion. So ek limit hai. I think we should realize that.
Hi, it is what it is. Unfortunately, social media के जो फायदे हैं उसके नुकसानात भी हैं, and one of the नुकसानात is कि हम दोनों हर हफ्ते बहुत जलील होते हैं. So thank you so much, Nida, for joining us.
Thank you, Shazad.
Thank you for giving us the time. Thank you everybody for listening. Take care, stay home, stay safe, stay happy, and
stay home. ये कब air होगा, Shazad?
पता नहीं.
कुछ दिन बाद. तो अगर ईद से पहले होता है तो please don't go out visiting people on Eid. Please don't. Please just stay home.
Yeah, and
have Eid on WhatsApp or Zoom or whatever. That's fine, and use it as an opportunity to not meet people that you might not want to meet every Eid.
I get लोगों की बस हो गई है, मेरी खुद की बस हो गई है 2-3 महीने घर रह के, you want to, but it's probably more dangerous than ever now because hospitals full ho chuke hain. There's so many hospitals who are not even
It's
taking.
more dangerous because lockdown is ho gaya पिछले हफ्ते. So we have no idea. I mean, lockdown कभी सही से हुआ भी नहीं. That's a different point. लेकिन अब तो बहुत ज़्यादा lax हो गया. अब तो है ही नहीं. And people are like crowding. We have no idea कि अभी कितना फैला है ये.
अभी से hospital से मना कर दिया. They're like we're taking no more patients because we're full.
I know. It's very, very scary.
Somebody said कि लाहौर में तो अब टेस्ट भी नहीं हो सकता आपका if you want one. So आज मुझसे किसी ने शेयर किया है personal story which they didn't want the particular part not being shared publicly, but people are dying at home and it's more dangerous
and
than
I'm sure a lot of people are dying in low-income areas and we just don't know. They don't know why and we don't know why, and you know उनके अंदर like they don't even know लोग कितना मरते हैं कि they're probably just like
yeah,
you know,
and it's really not worth
explanation
to do that. Please घर पे रहें, खुश रहें.
Stay home.
Yes.
Watch movies, read books, and just like call people.
You have recommendation? Somebody asked for a recommendation for a Marxist feminist book. I don't know.
I know people are like people think that I'm much more better read than I am. Yeah, there's so many books out there. Like there's a lot of really good. But Nancy Fraser, she writes very well. She's a Marxist feminist. I teach in my courses somebody called Nida Kirmani. She's not like traditionally thought of as a Marxist feminist, but she has great work on gender and development, which I find very instructive. But anyone who really wants like readings or wants to see my course outlines can always email me, and I'm happy to share that information with them.
आपको homework मिल गया, आप सारे अपना homework करें और खुश रहें. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you everybody for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.